Hey guys, Sandy here, and I got asked an interesting question the other day. Actually, it was while I was at work. I actually had a student ask me a question. They asked me, because they're getting into guitar, and they asked me, well, Sandy, how much does a good guitar cost? And the more I thought about it, like, things have kind of changed in the past few years. Things have gotten a little bit, well, a lot more expensive. So I thought I would, it's kind of a complicated question. All right. So I thought I'd get into it, and I thought I'd talk about how much does a good guitar cost. Now, before I really get into it, hit that subscribe button, but also keep in mind that all the prices that I'm going to be quoting are in Canadian dollars. So wherever you're living, you may have to do the conversion. But generally speaking, I think for the most part, I think we're going to be kind of in agreement about kind of different levels of guitars. Now, the other thing I also mention is I don't necessarily like the word budget. All right. I'm going to use the word budget because that's what people say. But my issue with the word budget is I don't know what your budget is, you know? Okay. The idea is that like, oh, well, like budget is highly subjective. That's my point here. All right. So just, yeah, those are a few caveats before I really get into this. Now, the first level of guitars would probably be about $0 to about $500. All right. These are guitars that I would put in the budget, beginner, maybe entry level. Okay. And like there are some good ones. All right. But you're going to find, first off, they're not going to be made in North America. Okay. That's not going to happen. They're going to be made overseas, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But they're gonna get you started. Okay. The truth is that nowadays, because of the advances in technology, even a beginner or budget guitar, heck of a lot better than it used to be. The guitars, the budget guitars from way back when, they really were just expensive firewood. They've really come a long way. And even though I use the word beginner, a lot of, more experienced players like to buy these guitars because they make great modding platforms. You can throw different pickups in them. You can swap out all the components. They really do just buy these guitars basically just for the body and neck. So again, take that word with a grain of salt as well. But yeah, generally speaking, $0 to $500, that's where you're going to be starting. Now, the next level, I would argue, is probably around $500 to right around $1,200. And these guitars, I refer to them as the giggers. These are going to be the guitars that, yeah, you can bring on the road, you can bring to a show, you can bring them into some gross bar, and they're going to hold their own, all right? Now, obviously, eventually, you're going to have to get a guitar set up. You have to do that with every guitar. That's just part of this hobby, all right? But at the end of the day, I like to call those guitars giggers because the quality is a little bit more, okay? They're a little bit more, like, they're just more durable. Sound, like, we're getting close to just how good a guitar can sound. I mean, obviously there is a limit, okay? But yeah, I would say $500 to $1,200. We're looking at, like, these are instruments that you can gig with, that you can work with. They're going to last, like, in the studio. You're going to be able to do a fair bit of stuff with these instruments. Now, after this, we're looking at from about $1,200 right around to $3,000. This is where, I mean, we're getting into some serious money here, right? Okay. Those guitars they're pro level instruments. Okay. These are guitars like your children will inherit these things. Okay. All right. Like in that price point is like most of the American made Fenders. Okay. Most of those guitars are going to be, a lot of them are going to be made in North America. A few in the $500 to $1,200 range will be made in North America, but there will be, honestly, at the $500 to $1,200 level, it's kind of 50-50. Some made in North America, some made overseas. All right. Again, kind of 50-50, but at the $1,200 to $3,000 mark, a lot of it is made in North America. That said, a lot of other countries have been making some pretty incredible stuff. So you could see some higher end models getting made in that price range in other countries as well. But generally speaking, that's what we're kind of looking at here in North America. And And yeah, these are going to be, they're going to be very high quality. These are frankly very serious instruments, and they come with a serious investment. They're going to use higher grade, high quality components. And yes, a lot of them you can modify, but at that point, it's iffy whether you want to, because when you start modifying those at that level of instrument, you start actually depreciating the value as well. So as long as, I mean, if you can put it back together and you keep everything, fantastic, but that's one caveat there. And at $3,000 and up, we're getting into the territory of, frankly, collector's items, all right? Now, to be fair, I mean, there are certain models where that's just what it costs, okay? Which are used by just working professionals, but these, for the most part, I mean, personally, I wouldn't necessarily want to bring a $4,000 or $5,000 instrument to some greasy bar to play a gig, okay? Like, this is something that I would keep at home and, you know, play on the couch sort of idea. I'll be honest, personally, I don't necessarily think I do have one guitar that I think would be considered a collector's item. That is not what I paid for it. And it actually had some wear and tear, so I got a really good deal on it. But that's sort of what we're looking at. Once you get above $3,000, you're looking at some pretty, at that point, we're getting into collector's item territory. And I don't necessarily consider those guitars, I wouldn't necessarily consider them tools. Maybe that's a good way to look at this. From the $1,200 to the $3,000 range, these are professional tools, okay, of the trade. But when you get above $3,000, no. Some of these instruments are meant to just be put on a shelf or played at home. Now, as I said, budget is highly subjective, and what your budget might be is incredibly subjective. Maybe dropping $2,000 on a guitar, even though you've really only been playing for a couple of months, maybe that's not a big deal for you, which, fantastic. I'd love to know what you do for a living. For me, that ain't happening. But, so, like, you always have to keep that in mind, you know, right? Like, budget is, again, highly subjective. But generally speaking, I think most people would agree with what I've been saying. And you can find great guitars at all price points, all right? One of my favorite guitars, and it's going to be, depending on when this comes out, it's going to be in an upcoming video. It's a $300 Tele knockoff, and it's great, all right? I have a Dan Electro, and they are famously cheap, all right? And I paid like $350 for it, all right? And it just sounds amazing, okay? At the same time, I've got a Jazzmaster that I've done a video on, and that's probably one of the most expensive ones I have here. All right, so like if you can't afford, okay, the higher level up, all right, don't feel bad. Okay, that doesn't make you any less of a musician. And believe me, there's plenty of guys who have bought a $3,000 or $4,000 guitar who can't play the damn thing. All right, it just means they got deep pockets at the end of the day. That's what that means. But generally speaking, I think most people will agree with what I'm saying. That said, if you disagree, let me know. Yell at me in the comments. I'm always open to hearing other points of view. And I love chatting with you guys, as you probably already know. Now, the other caveat I will mention, most of these prices that I'm talking about, generally speaking, they apply to more like solid body electric guitars. All right, acoustic guitars can kind of run the gamut, okay? Although I actually say it's fairly close with those. The big ones that I think are a lot different actually are probably semi-hollow guitars and like hollow bodies, you know, those big jazz box things. Like I went on Amazon before I started doing this, and I think the cheapest semi-hollow or hollow body guitar I could find was still like $300 or $400 versus the cheapest solid body, which was like $200. So, you know, they're just more expensive to make, okay? That said, they seem to be able to crank out a lot of cheap acoustic guitars pretty easily. Although I'd be concerned a bit if I bought one of those. But that's just me. Anyway, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And check me out on my other socials. Always happy to chat with you guys. And if I'm missing something, you let me know in the comments. Please do, okay? Sandy from Sandy's Guitars. Keep practicing. You're getting there. And how much you practice makes a hell of a lot bigger difference than how good a guitar you can afford, for the record, okay? But anyway, keep practicing. You're getting there. Take care.